Hi, I'm Firas, and welcome back to BrandBucket Academy. In this episode, we're shifting how you think about domain names, not just as web addresses, but as long-term assets that build brand equity, shape perception, and influence everything from trust to fundraising. Margot Bushnaq, founder and CEO of BrandBucket, joins us to explore why domains are digital real estate, how they impact investor conversations, and what you need to know to protect and grow their value over time. Let's dive in. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good.
Excellent.
How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. So today we're going to be talking about domains as business assets. We're talking to investors and also owners of these domain names and how they should be thinking about them.
Okay.
First topic is rethinking domain value. Why should businesses think of domains as asset rather than just URLs?
Well, the URL is it is the address of your business in the internet space. And every website actually has an underlying IP address, which is a series of numbers, which is impossible to remember. So you get the luxury of actually picking an easy to remember word to go on top of that address that people can type in and remember. And so the fact that domain names, there's only one of each one, is very unique. And that's why everyone calls domain names digital real estate, because just like there's only one of each acre of land on earth, there's only one of each domain name. And if you can get it, no one else can take it from you. And it is something that has value. And so it is an asset to your business.
Great. How can a strong domain influence brand perception, SEO, and growth?
Well, there's now more than ever, there's a lot of scammy businesses out there. And so if you have a good domain name, if you're on a .com, a customer immediately can build, they can sense a little bit of trust, that you are an established business, that you know what you're doing. And so their hesitation to transact with you if they don't know you goes down. And SEO wise, if you're appearing in a list of results with other businesses, if your domain name, which does appear right in the results, if your domain name looks short and it's on a .com and it's easy to spell and it looks legit, they're more likely to click on it. And in the world of SEO, if they click and stay, your rankings go up. So that helps.
Yeah.
And growth, it's just word of mouth. If people can tell their friends about you and actually tell them your address without having to remember or to look it up on their phone, then it's going to just be more catchy and you're going to get more customers over time.
So the memorability of the name plays a big factor there.
Absolutely.
And the spelling, being able to spell it from pronouncing it also would be like an added value, or like just so that you don't have to explain yourself too much when you're explaining how to spell out or how to type the name.
Yep. And the extension, the .com, is what everyone's going to assume.
Yeah.
So if you tell your friend something and it's anything other than a .com, that's just one more piece of information they have to remember. They not only have to remember the name, they have to remember the whatever it was other than .com at the end.
Yeah. And it's very interesting that you mentioned the perceptions, like as you're looking at a set of results coming out of a Google search or whatever ChatGPT conversation, a business name is going to have a very big impact on first perception of the brand or the business that you go visit. And it can really give or tell you a little bit more about the perception that you would have about that business, even before visiting their website and looking at their graphics or looking at their brand identity, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. What makes a domain more valuable over time?
Well, if it's in use by a business, it absolutely gets more valuable. It gets exponentially valuable. and in some cases irreplaceable. You can imagine all the big companies out there. The one thing that would kill their business overnight is if they lost access to their domain name. No more email could come in. Nobody could visit their website. So in that sense, I mean, you need to protect it with your life. To renew a .com is about $10 to $15 a year, but it's worth so much more than that. Just the overall value of it is incredible.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's two prongs to this value proposition. There's the value of just similar to being an asset, you compared it to real estate,
Mm-hmm.
real estate continues to get more valuable over time because of scarcity and because of location. And, so a very easy to remember name is always going to increase in value no matter what. But then also what I hear you say is that the business who owns that domain name, their time, their investment in building it as a business will end up having a lot of value added into it. There's a lot of goodwill that goes into that business and makes it more valuable as an entity or as a name that refers to that entity.
Yep. It's what the domain name represents.
Yeah.
So a title for a piece of land, the title itself is just the value of the paper it's printed on, but it's what the title represents, that what's behind it. It's what's on the land. Is there a big, beautiful building on it? It gets more valuable the more time you put in.
Yeah. Interesting. So within the BrandBucket domain, or within the BrandBucket ecosystem, if you will, if I purchase a name and I start a business and I decide later on, okay, the business is not working out. So you're saying that investment, that value is retained in the name, no matter what. It will continue to have value in it. I'm not really wasting it.
Yes and no. If you want to sell the entire business, then that's a different story. That's kind of like a packaged business with the domain name.
Mm-hmm.
If the business doesn't have a lot of value, if it never really took off, or you let it shut down, if someone in the exact same industry wants the name, there is some inherent kind of legacy value. You might absorb some of the old customers, some of the old links out there.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, if a domain name is not developed, it can you can increase in value over time. Some domain names out there have been registered since 1992. They're more than 30 years old. And in that time, someone has kept it up, and it's never been for sale before. If it's coming up for sale, it's akin to, a very old house that's sitting in a very prime area of a city that has been owned by generations, and the first time it comes up for sale is a very big deal. There's going to be a lot of people who have visited it in those 30 years that have kind of stepped across it and say, I would love to have this. So your buyer pool is very, very big at that point. And so the value of holding on to something and never selling it, every year it gets more valuable.
Yeah. Very interesting. Great. Next, we're going to talk about the strategic value in branding. How does a great domain support long-term brand recognition?
Well, long-term brand recognition is you want your brand to exist without the entire domain name. So you don't want to be known as yahoo.com forever. You want to be known as Yahoo. And if you're on anything other than a .com, it can be hard. You're always going to have kind of your full domain name as your company name. So there's Block XYZ, and they promote themselves as Block. The company is registered as Block, but in all of their marketing and all of their advertising, they have to put block.xyz. They're never going to be able to just put Block because everyone's going to assume block.com.
Interesting. So what's the relationship between premium domains and business credibility?
Users understand, even if they don't kind of consciously understand, that there's only one domain name, and once someone has it, that's it. It's not a piece of software that you can sell over and over. users inherently understand that if you have a good name, you either have an insightful founder, or you're dealing with a company that has money behind it or that's been around a long time. And so immediately, if you have a good name, there's kind of instant credibility that there's one of those things, and people are more likely to do business with you.
Okay, yeah. Can a domain name become a competitive advantage in a crowded market?
Absolutely. If you have a competitor, two competitors, one with a great name, one without a great name, one is going to be more easily remembered and customers will gravitate towards it. And going back to the trust, one seems like a more legit company. They seem like they're in business for the long term and they've invested up front in their brand.
Yeah. So would you say then that block.xyz has less of a trust than block.com on first impression?
I would say for the majority of users who don't know what block is or who's behind it, they may hesitate typing in the .xyz at first. They may have that kind of moment of, hold on, is this for real? Because every other company I interact with on a daily basis has a .com.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump into domains in fundraising and exits. Why do investors and buyers care about a company's domain?
If someone's going to come invest in your company, they can kind of tell from the get-go. I mean, most of these people have done a lot of these transactions. They dealt with a lot of companies. They've looked at the landscape, and they can tell from your name what kind of foresight you had when you were starting your business. They can easily spot the fact that you just went with whatever you could get for $15 versus, putting some thought into it and putting at least as much money behind it as you did to hire a lawyer to get a trademark for you. Your name is that important as far as perception and kind of showing at the very, very beginning when you were starting this, were you serious?
Yeah. Interesting. How can a domain add value in an acquisition or fundraising conversation?
Well, the investors, they know when they're about to put money in you, how much money is going to be spent towards marketing in order to grow to the level that they want to grow to. And in the case of a really bad name, they're going to have to earmark some of that money for a rebrand. If the domain name's okay, but just not spectacular, they're going to have to earmark a certain amount of marketing dollars to, just push the name out there and just repetition until customers understand it. But if you're coming to the table with an absolutely fantastic name already, then, all of that extra marketing money or rebranding money can then just go into your pocket.
Yeah. Can you give us some real-world examples where a domain name increased a company's valuation?
I think my favorite example is Mint, which was a personal finance tracking company. They started out on mymint.com, and they didn't just register that. Mint is a popular enough keyword where it did cost the founder about $3,000 to acquire at the time. But then they went after the mint.com domain name, which wasn't an easy task. It took a long time, it took a lot of convincing, and took a lot of money to acquire it. Could have been a big risk. They could have spent all that money and not had any left over for growth. But it paid off, and they had instant credibility. And that word is so kind of perfect for a financial company that they stood out and became very memorable, and the growth took off. And then Intuit came in and bought them out for a very big sum.
Great. Yeah, that's a great example. Well, next we're going to talk about managing and protecting domain assets. What should founders do to protect and manage their domains as assets?
It's very, very difficult nowadays to be running a business on a domain name and to have it expire, because most registrars, fortunately, the minute that it crosses its expiration date, they stop pointing it to your website. So you'll stop getting email, your website will be down. You'll hear about it immediately. But in general, you want to make sure that you have auto renew on your domain name. You want to have a credit card on file that, that is not going to go anywhere, that it expires several years in the future. You can renew most domain names for at least 10 years. So you might as well, it's for .coms, it's $15. For other extensions, it can be significantly more. But if you're planning to be in business for at least 10 years, just renew it out for that long.
Yeah. How important is it to own similar or defensive domain variations?
I would say you should get as many as you can. Not necessarily, they don't have a ton of value, except to keep people, everyone's always going to try to copy your business. Not everyone understands trademarks. And if someone copies your business on a very similar domain name or on the same domain name with a different extension, you absolutely have legal right to shut them down, but it's expensive and it's time consuming and it's annoying. So if you can just cover your bases from the get-go and not let anybody kind of ride your coattails
that makes sense.
Without permission, you should.
What are best practices for maintaining long-term domain ownership and control?
You should definitely have someone in your company be in charge of domain names. It's their absolute responsibility that they check in on them at least once a year. And if you're a really, really big organization, there do exist companies that you can outsource your domains to provide, absolute privacy protection, make sure they're renewed, make sure that they've gotten all the variations protection that you can. There's companies like MarkMonitor, which are very popular for people protecting their domains.
Yeah. Next, we're going to be talking about the long-term perspective. What mindset should entrepreneurs have when viewing domains as part of their growth strategy?
They should be looking at something that is easy to pronounce, easy to spell, easy to remember, something catchy that evokes, either the sense of their business or is related to something, a key part of the functionality that they offer. And basically be willing to kind of sit down and lay out a bunch of options and maybe buy more than one option, because you never know, a couple months into your journey, you may pivot just enough where option A no longer fits as well as option B. So
or maybe play an anticipation game of like, what if we end up expanding into this industry or that industry? Mm-hmm. What the applicability of the name? Yeah, that's great. What's one piece of advice you would give a founder investing in their first premium domain?
I think a lot of first-time founders are bootstrapping, and so they're trying to go the cheapest route they can for everything, which includes trying to find an unregistered domain name for like a .com they can get for $15. So many of BrandBucket's customers are repeat founders, and I think if they could go back and tell their younger self how much time it saves to not be sitting in front of a domain name checker seeing if something's available, which usually takes you down a path of spelling or gets you away from your core concept, and you end up on something just because it's available, not necessarily because it's good. You sometimes actually just saying, I have a budget for a domain name that's more than $15. That can make so much difference in the quality of what you're starting with.
Yeah. it would pay off in just, check it, move on, focus
Mhm.
on the business.
It pays off in time savings. It pays off in trademarks, typically. Like if something has been registered, it usually means that there's registered but not in use. It means that the trademark has a better possibility of being open.
How can early investments in domain assets pay off in the long run?
A good domain name that is on the market and that you're attracted to is most likely going to be attractive to someone else in the future. And so any amount of money that you pay for it now, if for some reason you change to a different business or you shut down your business or you never even get your business off the ground, if you had the idea and you bought the name and just got too busy or decided it wasn't for you, you can recoup some or all of what you paid for it. So a premium domain name is premium for a reason, and it means that there is a buyer pool out there of more than just you. And
Yeah.
and it may take a few years, but you most likely will be able to resell it.
Yeah. And the perfect domain also would potentially end up costing you so much more once your business is established and
Mhm.
everybody knows that what you're acquiring it because you did not acquire it 2-3 years ago. And now
Yeah.
they're going to basically charge you more money for it because they know that you are a big, successful business and can afford to pay for
Yep.
such a name.
So Uber, for example, on that note, started out as ubercab.com. And at the time that they decided, we are looking forward to the future, we might be a lot more than just taxis. We might be food delivery. We might be different things. They went to go rebrand to just uber.com. And the owner of Uber at that point knew that Uber Cab existed, and it was a lot more expensive then than had it been when Uber first started.
Just started. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. This was very valuable, definitely very insightful for founders and investors in domain names, basically understanding the core value and the long-term investment in the name. Very insightful feedback. And
yeah, I hope it helps people who are out there on the verge of buying their name.
Yeah. And definitely gives you a different perspective, like it's like it is an asset. It's going to always hold value, and being able to make decisions at that point becomes a bit easier and less risky.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. Appreciate your time. Your domain name is more than just a URL. It's a brand asset that speaks volumes about your business before anyone else clicks. If you're ready to invest in your brand's future, visit BrandBucket.com to explore a curated marketplace of premium business names designed to grow with you. Because smart brands start with smart names. We'll see you in the next episode.